Found my husband's secret Reddit where he posed as a woman and flirted with men, divorced him, and sent the photos to his parents. I discovered my cheating husband's secret Reddit accounts, divorced him, and exposed his affair partner's marriage. I've had my suspicions for months now, so I've been quietly investigating. His behavior started to change. He was on his phone more often, seemed distant, and I could just feel a shift between us. Every now and then, I'd get this gut feeling that he had been with someone else that day. There were even times when he came home smelling different, acting a little off, like he didn't want to get too close. All these red flags pushed me to start snooping through his phone whenever he left it lying around or fell asleep. I found a few apps that, as it turns out, are popular among people having affairs. Then, I stumbled upon his secret Reddit account and his activity in an adultery sub. This weekend, everything clicked, and I finally confirmed what I had feared: he's actively cheating. I'm absolutely devastated and have no idea what to do next. He has no clue I know, and it's taking everything in me to act normal around him and the kids. I've only confided in one close friend because I don't know how to handle this alone, and I've been shaking all weekend. She suggested I dig deeper to figure out who the affair partner is before confronting him. Never in a million years did I think I'd be here, thinking about divorce, worrying about what will happen to the kids, and watching our whole life fall apart. I feel so betrayed and can't stop thinking, what a waste. He's ruined everything. Update. Hi everyone. First, I want to thank you all for your advice and support. I'm not the kind of person who likes to share personal struggles, but in a moment of panic, sadness, and a bit of desperation, I made this post, and I'm so glad I did. It's heartbreaking to hear how many of you have gone through this kind of betrayal, but at the same time, I feel a little less alone. I spoke to an attorney today. We're in a no-fault state, so infidelity won't affect the divorce itself, but it could come into play if there's a custody battle. Luckily, the attorney has an opening tomorrow. I'm not sure I'm ready to make any big decisions yet, but his next available appointment isn't for 3 weeks, and I want to gather as much information as possible before confronting my husband. I don't want to wait that long to deal with this. The friend I confided in connected me with an IT specialist who's a relative of hers. He met with me this morning and was able to dig up a lot of helpful information, including the identity of the affair partner. So now I wait. I'm waiting until after my meeting with the attorney to figure out how to handle the affair partner. Everything feels like it's moving too fast, yet somehow not fast enough. I know I need to gather all the evidence and make sure I'm prepared before my husband catches on. But at the same time, I just want to confront him and get it over with. Thanks again for all the support. Let's get into some community reactions. First comment. First off, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I remember that feeling all too well. The adrenaline rush, the shakes, your stomach in knots, and the absolute rage when you find the proof. It's gut-wrenching. You're handling this exactly right by gathering as much evidence as possible before confronting him. Don't give him any room to downplay or gaslight you. He'll probably try to say it was just online stuff, which is still cheating, but if you can prove it was physical, that's even stronger. Wishing you and your kids the best. You deserve so much better than someone trolling NSFW subreddits behind your back. OP's reply. Thank you so much for the advice. I definitely have proof of a physical affair based on what he's posted in the adultery sub. It's been really hard not to confront him already, but having the kids around has helped me keep it together because I don't want them to suspect anything yet. They're teenagers, so it'll be incredibly hard to hide this from them once everything blows up. It makes me even angrier that he's put me in this situation. My emotions have been all over the place. From knowing I have no choice but to get a divorce, to wondering if there's any way to fix this. How are the kids going to react when they find out? I'm so resentful that he's dumped all this on me. Another comment. The joys of modern romance. Isn't it just lovely when your partner's idea of quality time includes visiting NSFW subreddits? I can practically hear the vows to love, honor, and secretly browse adultery forums until death do us part. Seriously though, I'm really sorry you're dealing with this mess. Your detective work is top-notch. Nancy Drew would be impressed. Just remember, you're not alone in this. Date 1. I met with my attorney this morning, and we talked for over 2 hours. Yesterday, he sent me a bunch of paperwork and a list of things to bring, mostly all of our financial records. I felt pretty prepared going in, and meeting with him actually eased a lot of my anxiety about my financial future, which had been a huge concern. Since we live in a no-fault state, infidelity won't affect the divorce itself, but if it turns into a custody battle, it might come into play. Thankfully, I don't see a custody battle happening, but it's good to be prepared. The details of the affair could prove useful later on, especially if things escalate. I asked my attorney if it would be appropriate to contact the affair partner's husband, and he gave me the go-ahead. Right after my meeting, I called him. It was a brief conversation where I let him know about the relationship between our spouses and that my husband had no idea I knew. He asked if he could call me back, and a little while later he texted me, asking if we could meet in person that afternoon. He promised he wouldn't tell his wife that we had spoken. I just got out of that meeting and I'm sitting in my car, feeling both a sense of relief and dread. The affair partner's husband had been suspicious for months. They live a few towns over, and we're about an hour away from a major city. My husband spends a lot of time there during the work week, and we even have an apartment in the city so he can avoid commuting when meetings run late or he has work dinners. Apparently, the affair partner had been spending a lot more overnights during the week, which wasn't typical for her before. He also noticed she was on her phone a lot more and had become very protective of it. About 2 months ago, he caught a flirty text over her shoulder and accused her of cheating. She gave him excuses and he let it go. Most of their meetups, it turns out, took place at our apartment. I told him the messages between them confirmed this. Some of my favorites were from her. Like when she texted, "I wonder if your wife will smell me on her sheets. I hope she does," right after my husband told her about a planned weekend in the city with me and the kids. Another one was, "Is it wrong that I think of the apartment as our apartment? Just me and you, our little love nest? That's an apartment I own half of, by the way." I handed over a thumb drive with all the evidence I've gathered, along with a very detailed spreadsheet that covers every meetup, dinner, gift, hotel visit, you name it. My husband would be proud of that spreadsheet. He's a spreadsheet guy after all. The affair partner's husband asked me to hold off a few days before confronting my husband so he could do some investigating of his own. I shared the contact info for my new best friend, the IT expert, and also mentioned the divorce attorney I'm working with. One thing I should add. This guy was incredibly good-looking, very in shape. My husband is a good-looking guy too and takes care of himself. But this guy? He was something else. I don't know why that surprised me. He was also really kind and sympathetic, which was a relief because I wasn't sure how he would react. We've agreed to stay in touch so that we can coordinate the confrontation, and hopefully we'll confront both of them at the same time, though separately, of course. Let's see what the community has to say. Here's what people are saying so far. First comment. If it were me and this all finally blew up, I'd straight up tell my husband I don't know why the affair partner slept with him, because her husband is way hotter. But hey, I'm a jerk like that. Second comment. Well done. Other betrayed spouses should follow your lead. I was 100% with you until that last part, confronting both of them at the same time but separately. There's no way on earth I could resist confronting them with the other betrayed spouse walking into the apartment with me while they're together. Still, I wish you the best. Bravo on gathering all that evidence. Your husband will surely be thrilled to see his precious spreadsheets being put to such a noble use. Meeting the affair partner's husband must have felt like something out of a spy movie. Who knew investigating infidelity could double as speed dating, right? And hey, noticing his good looks and fitness level? Why not? If you're going to endure this dumpster fire, might as well enjoy the view. And that line, "I wonder if your wife will smell me on her sheets," is so ridiculous. She just proved that cliché lines aren't limited to bad movies. Sharing that thumb drive with all the dirt? Absolute power move. Is the ultimate thank you. Next. Update 2. I spoke to the other betrayed spouse today about the evidence we've both gathered and the logistics of confronting our spouses. When we first met, he told me he was headed straight for divorce, but after reviewing all the evidence I gave him and doing his own digging, any doubts he had are gone. My husband's been in the city for work since Monday, and he's coming home tomorrow. We've agreed to confront our spouses tomorrow night, at the same time but separately. One interesting question the other betrayed spouse asked me was which date or event bothered me the most. For him, it was when his wife claimed she was away in Louisiana for work. Their son, who has asthma, came down with the flu, and he ended up spending over 10 hours in the ER with him. She was actually just 1 hour away in the city with my husband, but coming home would have blown her cover. He said he was shocked that covering her lies mattered more to her than being there for their son. For me, the worst moment was when we had a 3-day trip planned to visit my son's top-choice college and tour the campus. We'd been planning it for months, but a few days before the trip, my husband suddenly had a work commitment pop up. In the messages I found, the affair partner conveniently had the same unexpected work commitment around the same time. My husband chose to spend those 3 days with his affair partner rather than sharing an amazing experience with our son, helping him choose his future. The good news is, our son got into that college and will be attending this fall, but I can't shake the anger and hurt. I'm a nervous wreck about tomorrow night's confrontation. The other betrayed spouse reassured me today, saying, "We're on the same team. We'll get through this. I really hope so." Update 3. I started the conversation like this. "Do you think we have a good marriage?" He looked confused and said, "Yes, of course." "Why are you asking? You're happy in our marriage? You think we have a good marriage?" I pressed. He seemed uneasy now. "Yes, everything is great." "You're scaring me. Why are you asking this? Are you not happy?" "I'm pretty effing miserable right now," I responded. He looked taken aback, saying, "Okay, I thought we were happy too. So why are you asking?" "Because you're cheating on me," I said bluntly. His reaction was instant denial. "What? Why would you say that? How can you say that?" "Because you're cheating," I repeated. There was a pause, followed by more denial. "Now I'm pissed. I would never do that to you. How could you even think that?" "You know I would never." "Do I?" "Because I know you're cheating," I interrupted. At that moment, he just went silent, staring at the floor with his head in his hands. After a few minutes, he jumped off the couch and stormed into our bedroom, saying, "I need a minute." He came back about 10 minutes later, his eyes red like he'd been crying. The first thing he said was, "What do we do now?" I wasn't letting him off that easily. "I know you've been cheating. I want you to be honest with me," I demanded. His response, "I'm sorry. I'm so effing sorry." Then, the conversation spiraled from there. I pressed for details and he tried to downplay it, saying it was just a fling. "It's over. She meant nothing to me. It didn't last long. I don't even know why I did it." He kept repeating, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Both of us were crying at this point. I couldn't hold it together anymore. Through tears, I asked, "I must have done something really terrible to you for you to do this." His reply hit hard. "You've done nothing. It wasn't about you." I was at a loss. What was it about then? "I don't understand. We have this beautiful life. There has to be a reason. And I don't want to hear that you don't know why." What he said next is still something I can't fully wrap my head around. Everything with us was great. It's always been great. But I started getting attention from her, and it just happened. I started thinking about the monotony of our life. There are no highs or lows. It just felt exciting, I guess. Once it started, the adrenaline took over, and I couldn't stop. My response was blunt. "Let me get this straight. You started effing someone else, sneaking around, lying, and blew up our entire life because we were too happy?" He admitted, "I know it sounds stupid saying it out loud, but that's how I felt." I then asked who she was, and he refused to answer, saying, "She has a husband and kids, and I don't want to wreck that." That stung. "What about our marriage? Our kids? It says a lot that you're more concerned about protecting her and her family than us." He tried to defend himself. "It's not like that." And that's when I told him he had to go. I told him he had to leave, and while he resisted at first, I was breaking down and couldn't stand to be around him. He eventually started packing, but kept checking on me every few minutes, apologizing. My brother arrived as he was packing. I had already told him about everything, and he informed my husband that I had a divorce attorney. My husband was shocked, saying, "You can't just decide we're done. We need to talk about this. There's the kids to think about." I replied, "It seems to me that you and affair partner's name already made that decision for us. Don't worry. She's having just as crappy of a night as you are. This made my brothers laugh. My soon-to-be ex looked surprised that I knew her name. My oldest brother walked him out, and I saw them arguing in the driveway before he finally left. I briefly spoke with the other betrayed spouse last night and again this morning. As a mini update, the affair partner is staying at a hotel now. Community reactions. First person. Big hugs, OP. His response says it all, doesn't it? Deny, ask what you know, say it's over. Blame the affair partner, protect the affair partner, it's classic. You did nothing wrong, and you handled the confrontation perfectly. Kudos to your family for being there for you when everything is falling apart. Thank you. I called him a cliché, using the whole playbook. Next person. It's wild how they always try to protect the person they cheated with. My wayward husband still does this. Exactly. I wanted to ask about her identity because I'd read so much about protecting the affair partner in that adultery sub I first caught him on. He didn't mention her name once in our 2-hour conversation. So that's why I asked at the end, another person. So gross. He doubled down by protecting the affair partner at all costs. It's kind of crazy that you know about his secret Reddit and have access to his inner thoughts. Did you screenshot everything? He might delete it now if he thinks you found it. I've got screenshots of everything. His reaction was so typical. First denial, then asking for time, and finally a confession while still protecting her. It's almost laughable that he tried to pretend everything was fine in our marriage right before I dropped the bombshell about his cheating. Total shock on his part, as if sneaking around and betraying your family could never lead to consequences. And the affair partner's husband? What a champ. He's filing for divorce faster than your husband can say, it was just a fling. The fact that the affair partner stayed with your husband while her child was in the ER speaks volumes. Mother of the year, right? When you brought up your son's college trip, it was clear your husband's priorities were way out of line. Skipping such an important family moment for an affair? That's a whole new level of selfish. Your confrontation strategy was solid. And the part where you told him you already had a divorce attorney? Total power move. Good on you for having all the evidence, screenshots of everything. You're prepared to show the court exactly who he is. Stay strong. You're handling this like a boss, and there's no doubt you'll come out on top. Update for this morning, we talked to the kids. I won't go into too much detail out of respect for their privacy, but their ages are 14, 16, and 17, almost 18. Beforehand, I told my soon-to-be ex what my therapist had recommended for how to approach the conversation in the healthiest way. I insisted he should lead the talk, for obvious reasons. He resisted, saying it was too soon and that if we worked things out, it would just confuse them. I explained that, 1. They'll know something's up since he won't be living with us anymore. 2. The only thing left to work out is a co-parenting plan. He tried to steer the conversation toward our relationship, but I shut that down and kept it focused on the plan for talking to the kids. When they got home from my sister's house, we sat down, and he started with a vague explanation. We're having problems and can't seem to resolve them, so it's best if Dad moves out for a while. It won't change much since Dad spends most of the week in the city, and he'll still spend time with you on weekends. There was silence from all 3 kids. Then my oldest jumped in. You're cheating on Mom, aren't you? The other 2 quickly chimed in. Stop, he would never do that. They started arguing with each other, but my husband just sat there, saying nothing. I asked them to calm down so we could talk, but my oldest wasn't having it. Everything's been fine. We'd know if you 2 weren't getting along. My oldest kept pushing. You're cheating, aren't you? It has to be that. My soon-to-be ex was completely silent. I told him, you have to tell them. More silence. So I turned to the kids and said, yes. That's when all 3 of them started yelling and crying. How could you do this? Why would you do this? Are you getting a divorce? There was so much shouting and tears. One of them even said, I hate you. My soon-to-be ex finally spoke up, saying, I know you're upset. You have every right to be. I've let you down. But this is between me and Mom. I think he was trying to make them feel like it wasn't their fault, but it completely backfired. My oldest shot back. How can you say this has nothing to do with us? It has everything to do with us. You're always telling us to respect women, lecturing me about how to treat my girlfriend, and now you're messing around on Mom. There was a lot more back and forth, mostly the kids expressing their anger while my husband just kept apologizing. Once things calmed down, I told them they could go to my brother's house, where all my siblings and their spouses were waiting. They knew we were having this conversation and thought the cousins might be a good distraction for the kids afterward. Before they left, my oldest looked at me and said, "Mom, he's not staying here, right? Like, he's not coming back here. There's no coming back from this. You know that, right?" Once the kids were gone, I told him to pack more of his stuff while we were out. He asked, "Don't you want to talk?" I just replied, "What else is there to say? I'm traumatized from watching the kids go through this. Are the lows worth it? Think about the consequences." I told him to text me when he was gone so I wouldn't have to see him when I got back. Community reactions. First person. "Oh boy. My heart really goes out to your kids. It sounds like your oldest is going to have the hardest time with this. But he also sounds like he's turning into a fine young man. Your post really hits home just how devastating cheating is. For what? A few minutes of pleasure? It's the most selfish thing someone can do. You handled your business like a boss. And your ex-husband with his, 'Don't you want to talk?' I mean, did he just meet you? Did he not think this would happen when you found out? Stay strong, OP. When you hear from the other betrayed spouse, let us know how he handled his end." Next person. I strongly believe that older children should be told the truth, in an age-appropriate way, about why their parents' relationship broke down, especially when it's due to infidelity. Kids are intuitive, and hiding the truth just causes more confusion. Compounding their confusion, hurt, and sense of betrayal is the fact that their wayward parent has already deceived the whole family. The last thing they need is to be lied to further. Honesty and transparency are key, especially with teenagers. OP, you did the right thing by telling them the truth, because your kids need to understand what's happening in order to start making sense of it. Reading your children's reactions was heartbreaking. This is why I always emphasize that infidelity is traumatizing, not just for the betrayed spouse, but for the children too. It's a form of emotional and psychological abuse, and wayward spouses need to understand the deep, long-lasting damage they cause when they cheat. Your husband is a selfish coward for destroying his family this way. As painful as it was, you handled the situation like a queen. Please make sure your kids get into individual counseling as soon as possible, and find a good infidelity trauma therapist for yourself. OP replies, I had a session with my therapist to discuss strategies for talking to kids in this age group. She advised presenting the situation in a vague, bare-bones way, which is what we did, and then answering their questions honestly. She said many teens already have suspicions about the cause of the breakup. Some will want to talk about their suspicions and others won't. Using this strategy gives them agency. It allows them to decide what they're ready to hear. I explained this to my soon-to-be ex, which made his silence even more frustrating. I'm the kind of parent who goes to therapy when my kids are going through tough times. I'm a Montessori-trained teacher, although I've been a stay-at-home mom since they were babies, and I've raised my kids using that philosophy. When your kids are going through something hard, you need to ask yourself, what am I doing as a parent that might be triggering this? And what can I do to help them cope? This moment was supposed to help establish trust between my soon-to-be ex and the kids, but he completely blew it. Nothing like a confession to bring everyone closer together, right? The highlight was definitely my oldest calling him a hypocrite. It's not every day you get schooled by your kid on respect and integrity. I hope my ex was taking notes during that lecture. And my exit line, are the lows worth it? That was the cherry on top. It's like he's finally realizing he's the villain in this drama. And let's not forget my son's plea. He's not staying here, right? It was such a clear, raw moment that hit me hard. It's clear your kids are smart and can see right through the BS. Update 5. Hi everyone. Sorry for the delayed update. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, both mine and the kids, and some from family. My mother-in-law and father-in-law returned from vacation last week, and they're really struggling with the news. My soon-to-be ex and his sibling broke it to them, and they're devastated. My mother-in-law calls me every day trying to be supportive, But the conversation always ends up with her saying, "I didn't raise him to be like this," and breaking down in tears. My father-in-law has tried to talk me into reconciliation for the kids. I know he means well and is genuinely concerned about them, so I'm trying to be patient. He's incredibly disappointed in my soon-to-be ex, and our conversations have been put on hold because he gets too emotional, often brought to tears. The kids have started therapy and opted for group sessions together. Their therapist supports this, saying it'll help them heal as a healthy support system for each other. Reconciliation with their father will take time and might look different for each of them, but the group sessions will help them navigate their individual journeys without damaging their sibling relationships. My soon-to-be ex and I finally had a proper conversation about the affair and our separation. He still wants reconciliation, but I don't. One thing I asked him was, if the roles were reversed, would you forgive me? We both know he wouldn't. His response was, "You're a better person than I am," which was basically him admitting he expected me to give him a chance to reconcile. He never thought I'd go straight to divorce. I told him, "You hold me to higher expectations than you hold yourself. Is that fair?" I had a session with my therapist after that conversation. She explained that what he said is very common among wayward spouses. They don't expect the relationship to end without a chance for reconciliation and often feel entitled to it. This comes from the time they spend blaming the betrayed spouse to justify their own behavior. Has anyone else experienced this? Last week was a roller coaster of emotions. Anger, sadness, grief. But the last few days I felt detached. Many of you have asked for updates on the other betrayed spouse. Honestly, I think he's further along in this process than I am. He had suspicions earlier, so maybe that's why. The other betrayed spouse told me his wife had been unfaithful for years, and as far as he knows, she's now staying with her sister. There's been no contact between her and my soon-to-be ex. Apparently, she's angry at my husband because she thought they'd be together and threw that in her husband's face during their confrontation. Now she's left looking foolish. I've shown the other betrayed spouse all of my posts and the support and advice you've shared. I felt it was only fair that he knew I was posting about our situation. I'm trying to convince him to join Reddit, or at least check out the support subs, as they've been incredibly helpful for me. He's not a social media guy, but he said he'd think about it. Thank you all so much for the advice and support. I know I've been quiet, and many of you have reached out to check on me. Having these outlets has been a huge comfort during this difficult time, and I can't fully express how much it's helped. The family drama intensifies. It seems like my soon-to-be ex's infidelity is the gift that keeps on giving, spreading heartbreak everywhere. My mother-in-law's daily calls are becoming overwhelming. She keeps saying, "I didn't raise him to be this way," and then bursts into tears. Maybe next time I'll suggest she redirect her emotional support efforts toward her son, the one who actually messed up. Update 6, D-Day 2. To all the veteran betrayed spouses who warned me he might have done this before, you were right. Early this morning, I woke up to an Instagram message sent in the middle of the night from the affair partner via a fake account, since I have her blocked everywhere. The message read, "Hi, it's Jaffair partner. Just so you know, I'm not the only one. Ask him about Megan. I've got a feeling he's been lying to both of us. And I thought you deserved to know. How nice of her, after 7 months of sleeping with my husband, to suddenly care about my feelings." I took a screenshot, blocked the account, and didn't respond. Ironically, my soon-to-be ex was scheduled to stop by at 9 a.m. to go over financial information, the monthly budget, and his plans for living arrangements. I was on the verge of a panic attack, so I called my sister. We brainstormed about who Megan could be and how to figure it out without asking the affair partner. She calmed me down and helped me plan to confront him. I decided to record the conversation for evidence. Instead of it being a productive discussion about finances and future arrangements, things were about to get even more complicated. It's D-Day 2. My soon-to-be ex comes over with coffee and bagels. How thoughtful, right? We sit down in the kitchen, and I ask, "So, have you spoken to the affair partner?" He says he has her blocked on everything, but she tried contacting him at work last week. Apparently, they had it out on Friday and he told her to stop. Then I ask, "How about Megan?" He looks genuinely surprised and says, "Megan? What are you talking about? I push back, telling him, you can't keep doing this to me, making me feel like I'm crazy. Just tell me the truth. I'm having panic attacks. I can't sleep. I need the truth. Long story short, Megan is a woman from a professional organization he joined 5 years ago, where they network and brainstorm business strategies. They meet 6 times a year in different destinations, but I've always thought of it as just a fancy excuse for business people to go on extravagant vacations. The affair with Megan started in June 2019 and ended in April 2020. He claims he ended it because he felt guilty, but I suspect it was more about the COVID shutdowns. Megan lives in a neighboring state but works in the city. At first, he swore their hookups only happened during these trips, but after some pressure, he admitted they met in the city a few times. He insists he hasn't had contact with her in over a year since she left the group. But, of course, there's more. I asked if there were any other affairs and begged him to just tell me now. I can't handle more confrontations. He admitted there was one more, a woman named Cindy, almost 5 years ago, just a few months after we bought our apartment. They dated for 3 months, slept together a few times, and she ended it when she found out he was married. After he left, I called my sister to fill her in. She asked if I planned to tell Megan's husband, and I was like, yeah, obviously. She told me to do it quickly before he warns her. I tried looking up Megan on Instagram and Facebook, but I was blocked. My sister found her right away and even found her husband, Craig. Megan had blocked me there too, but I was able to find Craig's work info and emailed him. Craig called me within 20 minutes. He explained that he caught Megan texting another member of the group last year, which is why she left. They've been in marriage counseling for a year, but he always felt like there was more. Megan has been gaslighting him, making him question his instincts. He thanked me for reaching out and said he finally had the confirmation he needed. I recorded my soon-to-be ex admitting the details of the affair, and Craig and I will stay in touch. All of this happened before lunch, and I'm still in shock, angry, and hurt. I feel like I don't even know him anymore. Of course, there was more to the story. Shakes head. Update 7. I'm proud to say I'm the mom of a high school graduate as of this past weekend. This last week has been filled with so many emotions, especially with my sons from just a few days before graduation. I wish I could say I went into these special moments with a positive mindset, but I failed. I think it's because reaching these major milestones for my kids also brings up feelings about the relationship and the future we'd planned. It's hard not to question whether past memories were real, and I find myself mourning the future that's now gone. It felt so strange to share such a momentous occasion with the person who betrayed me. Sitting next to him at our oldest child's graduation was filled with anxiety and silence. Without this cloud over us, we would have been celebrating together, high-fiving each other, saying, we got 1 through high school. 2 more to go. Instead, our other kids chose to sit with their cousins to avoid their father. Both of our families, who are normally close, were tense and awkward for the first time. I planned a big barbecue for my son, inviting family and friends. Our immediate family knows why we're separated, but the extended family does not, so it felt like putting on a show. The week leading up to the party was filled with anxiety and racing thoughts, like replaying scenes of betrayal in my head that I can't shut off. Last week, my oldest pulled me aside and said he was thinking about delaying college for a year to stay home and help with the house and his siblings. I told him absolutely not. He's worked so hard for 4 years to get into this university, and he's going. It makes me so angry at my ex for putting my kids in a position where they feel responsible for me, like they need to step up because of his selfishness. My ex has finally hired a divorce attorney, and my attorney informed him that all contact should now go through the attorneys unless it's about the kids. For those discussions, we'll be using a parenting app. Of course, my ex isn't happy about it. At our son's graduation, he tried to push for more personal conversations, but I kept my boundaries firm. At my son's graduation, my ex had the nerve to ask why we couldn't at least be friends. My response? My friends don't F me over like you did. He's still in contact with Megan and the affair partner, even though he claims to be no contact. He must think I'm an idiot, like I don't still talk to Craig, the other betrayed spouse. I've warned him that if he tries to bring that woman around my kids, he won't know what hit him. I've also informed his parents exactly who he's been spending time with. Call me vindictive, but if anyone messes with my kids, even their father, I'll go full mama bear. He swore he'd never do that, to which I replied, there are a lot of things I thought you'd never do, but here we are. The other betrayed spouse is ahead of me in the process. He had his ex served with divorce papers at work, where they used to work together. Naturally, some of his old colleagues reached out to him after she was served, and he didn't hold back. This put her into a spiral. For a few weeks, I felt like I was making progress, but this last week has been rough. I feel like I'm back at square one. Anxiety, racing thoughts, anger, and tears have all come flooding back. It's hard to move forward when every milestone is tainted by betrayal. Date 8. The further I go on this journey, the more I see my ex for what he truly is, an idiot. It's strange how D-Day removes the blinders, allowing you to see someone you've been with for 2 decades in their true light. I could come up with more colorful descriptions, but I'm trying to be classy. Last week was my oldest son's 18th birthday. He didn't want anything big, so I organized a small barbecue and pool party with close family, including his aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents. My ex came too, but my siblings refused to speak to him, so the atmosphere was tense. Despite that, the party was as successful as it could be, considering my son isn't speaking to his father. Let me give you an example of why my ex is an idiot. My cousin's son and my son are the same age and very close. My cousin and his son are super into dirt biking, which my son would love to do, but it's the one sport I've always said no to. However, since the boys turned 18, I've allowed my cousin to take my son on a yearly camping dirt biking trip. Every summer, my cousin takes my son on a dirt biking trip, and they're planning to go next week. Now, on to why my ex is an idiot. Towards the end of the birthday party, my ex gave my son his gift, a motorcycle. Yes, a motorcycle. Naturally, he bought one for himself too. He said, I know you like dirt biking, so I thought this would be cool. My son replied, this isn't a dirt bike, and I don't have a motorcycle license. We can get you one, my ex offered. I'm leaving for college in a month. What am I going to do with this? Maybe you can bring it to school? Freshmen can't have cars on campus. And where would I keep it? My son got quiet and just walked away, which is very unlike him. He's usually a pleaser and avoids conflict. My ex, clearly upset, asked, what the F? My daughter, who's 16 and much more combative, chimed in. He knows you're trying to bribe him, Dad. She was right. This is what my ex does. He avoids working on things and instead tries to win people back with grand gestures. This time, it backfired. Example number 2 of why my ex is an idiot. As he was leaving, I reminded him to make his flight reservations for when we move our son into his dorm next month. He casually said, oh, I forgot to tell you. I can't go. Something came up. Apparently, he's working on himself and dropped therapy because it wasn't helping and found a life coach instead. He booked a meditation retreat across the country for the same week. I'm proud of myself for not saying a word in response, but my gut told me something was off. I called Craig, the other betrayed spouse, the next day to check in, and surprise. Megan is going on a week-long meditation retreat. My ex thinks I'm an idiot, but clearly he's the real fool. I don't understand how he expects to rebuild a relationship with our kids if he doesn't put in the effort. If I were in his shoes, I'd be doing everything possible to prove myself to my kids. I'd show up, even if it meant staying in the background, just to let them know I'm there no matter what, even if they're angry with me. Instead, he buys a motorcycle as a quick fix, when what he should be doing is showing up for major life events, especially when it's difficult. It's frustrating to watch, but therapy has helped me realize I can't control what he does. The biggest realization I've had is that my ex's relationship with the kids is his responsibility to maintain, not mine. I can only control my own relationship with them. But God, it's so hard to watch him fail. So, naturally, your ex buys your son a motorcycle because that makes sense, right? Your son, being the pleaser, just walks away. Your ex is left baffled. And your daughter? She nailed it. He knows you're trying to bribe him, Dad. Hang in there. Your kids see who's really showing up for them, and that's what matters most. As for your ex, well, he's digging his own grave, isn't he? You're handling this with grace and strength, but it doesn't make it easier to watch. What do you all think? What would you have done in this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you soon.